Yo guys, what's going on? Aces here today with another episode of Road to Pro, and I believe this is episode number 11. I haven't done one of these in a while, and that was just for the sheer fact that I've been doing some other stuff on the channel, but I really want to start getting these series back up. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about your gun skill, but specifically to a certain gun, not just your gun skill in general, like, you can one-burst someone with the M8 every single time. It's more just being skilled overall with the weapon, knowing how it handles, performs, and all of the above. So, I believe it was Clayster or Zuma, I heard this from a friend of mine that watches FaZe. I'm obviously an Optic fan, and he's a FaZe fan. He said that, I believe, Clayster or Zuma in one of his streams said that it takes roughly 50 hours to get good with the gun and be pretty consistent. So, for me, I'm going to say about 2,500, 2,000 kills, roughly in that area, maybe 3,000. You're going to be generally good with the weapon. And, let's go through some of the weapons here. Some you're just not going to be able to adapt to unless you really put in the time, and what that means is you're going to probably get a low KD in some of your matches. But let's be honest with ourselves, some guns you need for the pro scene. I'm going to scroll through every gun just to give you guys the rundown, because honestly, you're going to need to know how to use some of these guns. So, the Kuda, not so much. Very rarely will you see that because no one really bans the VMP anymore, and we're going to Infinite Warfare soon. So, it's not really that big of a deal anymore, but the VMP you have to know how to use. The Vesper, you can pull it out maybe one game, it's going to get banned the next, and you're going to have to use the VMP. So the Vesper, we'll get to that in a second, but the VMP you have to know how to use. It's probably the only submachine gun you're going to see pros really consistently use, and if you don't know how to use the VMP or you're not good with it, you need to start putting some time in right now if you're an amateur or anything of the above. Even if you are like an AR slayer, just put some time in with the VMP. It'll help you out a lot just in case your ARs are banned. Now, the Weevil, you're not going to see too much unless a bunch of sub-bans come in, and that's just going to be from some newbie team if that happens. You're not really going to see the Weevil too much. The Vesper, you're going to have a one map with the Vesper. Then it's probably going to get banned, but it is pretty good at this point. They got a recent buff, and it is pretty insane. You can map some people with it, not going to lie, but like I said, you're going to have one game with it. Now the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh is one gun that you rarely see in the pro scene unless rapid fire is actually in and not banned. The Pharaoh is very good and it's pretty consistent. So it's a good for the longer range maps, but having that good SMG mobility and, a map like Stronghold, you can get someone at half wall at B-bomb. Somewhere like that, the Pharaoh is good for that engagement, as long as it's not an AR, obviously. The VMP is going to kick too much, but the Pharaoh with rapid fire is just a god little gun. It is just so insane, so definitely put some time in with the Pharaoh. It's kind of harder because it's 4-round burst, but it's not too hard to get used to. The Razorback you're not going to see. So, the AK, this is one gun I feel like that should be in pro matches because it's actually super good. I use it all the time. I even use it in game battles. I think, even some of the ones on my channel I might have used it in. And the KN-44 is just so good. And I haven't seen a single pro use it. The XR2, you're probably going to only see that when an M8's banned. An M8 ban is usually a we're in trouble ban from the other team. Okay, why did that happen? HVK. This is basically for your submachine gun runners that want to pull out an AR for a little bit, or someone who wants to not play more an aggressive AR role. They're probably gonna pull this out because it's more like a submachine gun. If you have someone like Formal, if you don't know who that is, I'm sorry, this won't make any sense, but he runs an M8 or a Shiva or a sniper, and when it's a map like evac in the one hard point on the right side of the map near the wall run, then he'll pull out an HVK because it's at close quarters. The ICR is being used more and more in pro matches because it actually is getting buffs, and it is pretty decent now. I believe at 3, 4, 5 shots somebody, even though the damage is only 4 clicks. So that's being used a lot more. It's being, it's pretty surprising. The Man of War you can see in almost every single pro match at least once, unless it's, there's a really good M8er on the other team. You really need to know how to use almost all these weapons at least a little bit. The Shiva is up and coming in the pro scene currently at the end of MLG Orlando when I'm recording this. At Orlando, we had Karma, we had Clayster, we had people like them using the Shiva a lot, and is getting pretty consistent in the pro scene. The M8, the biggest AR you're going to see in any amateur to pro anything like that, you're going to see the M8 the most, and you need to know how to use the M8. So from the submachine guns, we have the VMP you need to use the most, and the M8 you need to use the most. Shotguns, you're not going to see that much unless, you know, someone in the pro scene is pretty irritated. Then you might see an Argus. We've seen Royalty using an Argus on 100 Thieves against Optic, and it was pretty deadly. But it takes the competition out of the game. LMGs, you're not going to see. And snipers, I would recommend getting good with all 4 of these snipers, because the SVG, being probably one of the best, is almost a guaranteed one shot. The PO6 is a manageable gun in the pro scene. Some pros use it, you know, not that much though. Then you have the Locust, only going to be used when the SVG is banned, and if the SVG and the Locust are banned, then you're going to pull out the Draken. But guys, really only 2 secondaries you're going to be running is an RK5 and the L-Car with the MR6 nerf. You're not going to see anything like that. No knives, obviously. The RK5 over the L-Car, maybe. The L-Car is kind of being used a lot more on M8 classes, so definitely try to get good with both of those pistols. So guys, I know this was kind of a longer video, but weapon proficiency is just a big thing. And if I could recommend a couple things, I would say at least 2,000 kills with every weapon you plan on using in your amateur, semi-pro, whatever you are, career. Get about 2,000 kills with them. Get them to the 2nd weapon prestige and maxed, so you're good with all attachments and you're not just using one attachment set throughout your 2,000 kills. And, you know, mix up your attachments, see what works best for you. This is actually one of the pro classes or near pro class you're going to see for an M8. Usually a search and destroy class, and then the classic VMP down here, but you know, stock's not always on there. But those are my 2 classes for the M8 and VMP. Let me know if any of this stuff helped you guys. If it did, leave a like. It's free and only takes 2 seconds, and I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new around here. Check out my sponsors in the description below. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm out.